So we are going to run the country.
What we witnessed represents the first American regime change operation by force since the 1989 Panama invasion, when U.S. forces captured General Manuel Noriega, who was also accused of drug trafficking. What happened in Venezuela represents a historic shift in American foreign policy toward Latin America. The operation, carried out by Delta Force, the U.S. Army's most secretive special operations unit, lasted approximately 3.5 hours. But the preparation took months. To understand this operation, we need to go back to August 2025. That month, the United States began a massive military buildup in the Caribbean region, described by observers as the largest in decades. The USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, America's newest supercarrier, was deployed alongside approximately 15,000 U.S. military personnel. In November 2025, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth announced the launch of Operation Southern Spear, describing it as a mission to combat drug trafficking and remove narco-terrorists from the Western Hemisphere. Since September 2025, U.S. forces had conducted more than 20 strikes on vessels allegedly carrying drugs, killing over 115 people by the end of December. The administration claimed these boats were operated by Venezuelan criminal organizations, including the Tren de Aragua gang. In November 2025, the Trump administration designated the Cartel of the Suns as a foreign terrorist organization. The U.S. alleges that Maduro heads this cartel, a claim the Venezuelan president has consistently denied. In December 2025, the administration went further, designating Maduro's government itself as a foreign terrorist organization. Experts and analysts pointed out that the true objective of the operation had shifted beyond drug interdiction to regime change in Venezuela. Venezuelan opposition figures and independent analysts confirmed this assessment. The bounty for information leading to Maduro's arrest was raised from $25 million to $50 million in August 2025. At 2 a.m. Caracas time on January 3, 2026, the strikes began. 5 key locations were targeted: Fuerte Tiuna, Venezuela's largest military complex; La Carlota Air Base in central Caracas; La Guaira Port on the Caribbean coast, and other military installations. Special Operations helicopters from the 161st Special Operations Aviation Regiment flew over Caracas. Rockets and missiles struck air defense positions. Fires erupted at fuel storage facilities and military installations. Parts of southern Caracas lost power. Delta Force, the same unit that conducted the 2019 raid killing ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, stormed Maduro's location. According to intelligence sources, a CIA source inside the Venezuelan government helped pinpoint Maduro's exact whereabouts after Trump authorized the agency months earlier to conduct covert operations in Venezuela. At 4:21 a.m. Eastern Time, Trump posted on Truth Social, Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores, had been captured and flown out of the country. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that Maduro and his wife would face charges in federal court in New York. The charges include narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, and possession of machine guns and destructive devices. Maduro had been under U.S. indictment since 2020, when federal prosecutors alleged he collaborated with the Colombian rebel group FARC to traffic cocaine and weapons to the United States. The new superseding indictment expands on those charges. Brazilian President Lula da Silva condemned the operation as a very serious affront to Venezuelan sovereignty and an extremely dangerous precedent for the entire international community. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum condemned the attacks, noting that Article 2 of the UN Charter requires member states to refrain from the use of force against any state's territorial integrity. China expressed deep shock and strongly condemned what it called the reckless use of force against a sovereign state. France's foreign minister stated that the military operation violates the principle of not resorting to force that underpins international law. On the other side, Argentine President Javier Milei celebrated on social media, posting freedom advances. Colombian President Gustavo Petro called for emergency meetings of the UN Security Council and the Organization of American States. Within the United States, opinions were divided along party lines. Republican Senator Tom Cotton said Maduro wasn't just an illegitimate dictator, but also ran a vast drug trafficking operation. Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego called it the second unjustified war in his lifetime, declaring it illegal and embarrassing. Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, reportedly currently in Russia, demanded proof that Maduro and his wife are alive. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez called for resistance, stating that armed forces would be deployed following Maduro's orders without acknowledging his capture. Trump said the United States would be very strongly involved in determining Venezuela's future. When asked about supporting opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, he said he was considering it but cast doubt on whether any Venezuelan officials were legitimately elected. Trump also stated he expects the U.S. to get very strongly involved in the future of Venezuela's oil industry. Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves. Analysts warn that the next 48 hours are critical. Removing Maduro doesn't necessarily mean the regime collapses. There's a political and military elite tied to the regime's survival as much as Maduro himself. The risk of civil conflict remains real. What we witnessed represents the first American regime change operation by force since the 1989 Panama invasion, when U.S. forces captured General Manuel Noriega, who was also accused of drug trafficking. The parallels are striking. Both operations occurred on January 3rd, exactly 36 years apart. Will Venezuela stabilize under new leadership, or will it descend into civil conflict? Only time will tell. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this operation will bring stability to Venezuela or increase instability in Latin America?